Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. When calls are about to open for submission, the European Commission and the different European partnerships arrange infodays on the different thematic sections in the work programs. Circular Biobased Europe is the European partnership covering the circular biobased industries that are growing significantly these years. The partnership has its own dedicated section in the Horizon Europe work program with 18 calls available for the deadlines in 2023. Their Info Day is coming up. 20th of April, 450 people will gather in the heart of the European area in Brussels for a day dedicated to the circular biobased industry calls. The Info Days are designed to secure that the stakeholders get information on the open calls, advice on how to develop the proposals, technically how to apply for the calls, and not least networking and brokerage activities for people to connect for the many consortia to be settled. I connected with one of my old contacts, Maria Andrielou, communication strategist and owner of the communication company Clean Stories, specialized on exactly the biobased sector. We agreed to record an episode about the Circular Biobased Europe Info Day and how it is to participate in such events. And we managed to get Brigitta, Program Officer and Call Coordinator from Circular Biobased Europe, into the virtual podcast studio to help us shed light on the organization itself and how they run their info days. This is a great The Grant special that gives you an idea of what these events are and how you can benefit from participating for a warm-up for the upcoming Info Day on the 20th of April. Please enjoy. Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today I'm on the road. It's the Grant on tour, so to say. I'm sitting here. Easter is coming. I'm with my parents in the countryside in Denmark. Cozy it is to have my moving kit here with me. And this is a special. With this initiative, I do try to tap more into what has actually happened. My regulars will know that I have very generic episodes. I have instructions or ideas, tips and tricks episodes, and then I have been guests on board to explain about different corners of the EU R&D funding world. This is also what we're going to do today, but it is going to be a little bit calibrated with what happens in real time. We will be talking about the Circular Biobased Europe Info Day today. And before I say anything else, I have two more guests. I have two guests with me today. It's very, very nice. And before I do anything else, Maria, welcome.
Hello, Niels. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here talking with you and Dieter.
Yeah, me too. And Dieter, also welcome to you.
Great to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Niels.
I'm the one that thanks everybody. Yes. So let's have the introduction so we can get to the subject. But everybody in this show get a chance to explain who they are, where they come from, what they do within this world of EU R&D. And so, of course, ladies first. Maria, explain a little bit who you are and where you
Of
come
course. Well, I'm a communication expert, specialized in the bioeconomy and biotechnologies, and in particular to microalgae innovation. I have worked with several European associations, industry, and research organizations in several industrial sectors, such as the chemical, biochemical, pharmaceutical, life sciences, and nutrition sectors for nearly 15 years. I'm a registered communication expert working with the European Commission. I'm a founding member of the Aspire Public-Private Partnership, a member of the Greek Bioeconomy Forum, and I'm the founder of the Clean Stories communication agency dedicated to the bioeconomy and circular economy.
Yeah, very nice. Are there any? I always ask my guests if they have any specific capacities within EU R&D. So, have you throughout your career have you been writing proposals, or have you been facilitating things? Or
Well, in terms of the involvement of Clean Stories in EU R&D funding, we're involved in the process right from the conception of the idea, let's say, all the way to the submission of the proposal and project implementation.
okay. And yourself in your background back throughout the years, did you implement projects yourself, or did you involve yourself also as a partner in projects?
Yes, I was involved in writing proposals, writing the communication and dissemination part, designing the strategy, so drafting the complete work package for the proposal, and also executing and reporting to the European Commission about the deliverables.
Very well, experienced one there. And that's also a disclaimer here. Maria and I, we know each other from years back, where exactly I think actually we didn't meet in brokerage event some many years ago now. No, Dieter. Finally,
So,
as you.
yes.
Welcome.
So, my name is Brigitta. I'm by training, which is almost 20 years ago, I majored in applied biological sciences and then also a master in international relations and conflict management. And I think throughout my whole career, I've always been involved in funding, both on public sector side, private sector side, and then lately also in public-private partnerships. Worked in agricultural funding for the Flemish Ministry of Agriculture. Then I was a grants writer for about 5.5 years, so writing funding applications, trainings, investments, R&D, local level, European level as well. And then in 2012, I had the opportunity to start working for the European Commission for DG Research and Innovation as a project officer there in the Agri-Food unit. And then since 2015, I've been working for what started out as the Biobased Industries joint undertaking, which in the meantime is in its second iteration, which morphed end of 2021 into the circular Biobased Europe joint undertaking. So that's a public-private partnership. De facto a funding agency, so we organize an annual call for proposals each year, and we also follow up the ongoing projects. And there I started out as a project officer, and now I'm more of a program officer and also the call coordinator for CBJU.
Yeah. Thanks. You summed that up pretty well, both background, organization, and your experience on ER&D funding. We will you'll get a chance to dig a little bit more into what Circular Biobased Europe is. We will be. This is, as I mentioned in the intro, this is a special. Yeah, it's we talk about today your info day that you are upcoming here on the 20th of April.
Correct.
Yeah. Because as regulars of this show know that this is one of the things that I did cover, so to say, conceptually, when I've been going through my my timeline series, where I explained where you can find help, where you can network, and so on, where these information meetings and brokerage events, I have been mentioning them and going through them, what they are of nature and how to deal with them and so on. But this is a great opportunity to have a talk about a concrete event that's upcoming. I hope, of course, that you will have more people registering for it due to what we're doing here. But the main purpose for me and my listeners is that they get a concrete understanding of an upcoming event, what it is, and getting it from the horse mouth, you, Dieter, what these things, what they are, how you set them up, the nature of them. And then Maria and me, we will share how we use them, because especially Maria will get a chance to explain what it does for her company, how she's used them before and how she's using them now, and so on and so forth. So this is something that should give the listeners a very concrete, tangible insight into an event that is upcoming right around the
Mhm.
corner, a sort of warm up for the event. To get just a sort of zooming a little bit out, maybe Dieter, you give us an idea of a little bit more about what Circular Biobased Europe is, and your place in the Horizon Europe
Okay.
ecosystem, because it's very important, right?
Okay. So as I said, we're actually a successor of an organization that started out officially in 2014. And that actually started with the idea that, or with the discussion on a European level, where people realized that bio-based industries in Europe, they had a lot of potential, but they also had quite a lot of challenges. And then the discussion started, and in the end, the decision was made, okay, it makes sense, it adds value to set up a public-private partnership, fully embedded within, at that time, the Horizon 2020 framework, to solve these challenges. And this is how BBIJU, Bio-Based Industries Joint Undertaking, was conceived. And we organized different annual calls for proposals. Then, since Europe works with 7-year budgets, then the discussion started, okay, does it still add value to continue with this initiative, this public-private partnership, or not? And in the end, the decision was made, yes, it still adds value. And what we did there was, because I had lovely talks with our communication team about that as well. Why weren't we called BBI2? Why, did we change our name to CBE? One of the things that I asked myself that question, and I created an internal training for my colleagues about that. And I realized that it actually makes a lot of sense, because throughout BBI's lifetime, the circular aspect became more and more important. So it was not just only about supporting research, but also increasing market uptake of bio-based products. But also this circularity aspect became more and more important. If you have, for example, a bio-based plastic that's exactly the same characteristics as a plastic made from petroleum, that's great, good for the properties, but you also have the same issues as you have with petroleum-based plastics. Think of microplastics, ocean pollution, etc. So this circular aspect that, throughout the years of BBI, that already became more and more apparent, and that found its way into our calls, into our topics. But we wanted to focus even more on that. And this is also why, when CBE was created, this is the first letter of our acronym. So it already gives you an indication how important that is for what we do right now. So CBEJU is then fully embedded within the Horizon Europe framework. And when I say fully embedded, it means that we use the same IT infrastructure. So the same portal. We don't have our own website where you need to register and submit proposals, whatever. No. So if you know how to submit... Well, no, I think that was one of the best decisions that was made at the start of BBI, and that continued in CBE, was really, use your own, let's say, use your website to provide additional information. Yeah. But, be embedded within the IT infrastructure. It's a lot easier for applicants as well. And so not only the IT infrastructure, but also the general processes within the Horizon framework, the annotated model, grant agreement, I don't know what. So, all these things are also applicable to us. So that also helps to explain that to an informed audience, I would say. If they know what Horizon Europe is all about, then they know 95%. And I can just focus on the remaining 5% of explaining, let's say, the specificities, because we do have some specificities in CBE, but otherwise it's fully embedded within the Horizon framework.
Yeah, so thanks, Dieter. Now, just for listeners out there that are not so knowledgeable about the system and how it works, the Horizon structure, you do have these European partnerships. Some of them, they have their own allocated budget, where they can do their own calls, and they can also decide themselves some within a certain framework, I guess, eligibility criteria, how to apply for the money, with a little bit of difference from the other Horizon Europe Pillar 2 calls. And this is where this is where CBE fits in, right? You have your own board, you have a member structure, and you have this right to do these things, right?
No, correct. But again, for people that will look at our annual work plan, they will be very happy to read that when you look at the eligibility criteria, admissibility criteria, etc., we mainly refer to the official Horizon general annexes about these things.
Yeah.
There are indeed a couple of our specificities. I think, for example, we allow a higher page limit. I think that's always useful, especially because we do ask a couple of specificities as well. And I think one of the main reasons is that, and this is maybe the red thread that you'll see in a lot of these joint undertakings, is, they're public-private partnerships. So they are industry driven. And this is maybe one of the main differences when you look at how the topics are conceived, is that in at least the way that we work as CBEJU is we work on an annual basis. So we have an annual work plan, whereas a lot of the Horizon programs, they have multi-annual work plans.
Yeah.
And in our annual work plan, every year at the start of the year, you have our private partner BIC, Biobased Industries Consortium, and the Commission, our public member, they start discussing, and they start by asking themselves the question, okay, what are the real issues that the circular bio-based industries are facing this year?
Mm-hmm.
And they start discussing, and they use the whole year to define the topics of the next year, of the call of the next year. And so this is this interaction that you have there between a private and a public partner, which is different from the Horizon Europe context, where it's mainly, I'm simplifying now, I realize it, but where it's mainly European Commission and the member states that discuss and come to these ideas of topics. And
but that's just, but it's a different, it's a different structure that where it's very much, it's a whole system of technology platforms, of sort of a system where the Commission within the different subjects have tried to organize it a little bit, but it's correct that it's a little bit more cacophonic than in the partnerships, because there it's framed, you have fenced yourself around a subject where you can the research organizations and the industry and so on, the community, you can is a much more direct approach, you can have them to get involved. I guess it's also why they made them in the first place, to get a much more like critical mass on the input for the work programs, fitting much better to the industry's challenges. Yeah.
Correct.
Before
now, there is go, sorry.
I want Marie, because Marie, you've been working CIFIC.
Yes, that's true.
Did you was it the same, that the same approach there?
Well, as CIFIC is indeed the European Council for the Chemical Industry, and as an entity, CIFIC used to take part in consortia as a partner organization, mostly for CSA projects, coordination and support action projects. But indeed, as a CIFIC employee, that we were working on the bioeconomy, we're actually leading the bioeconomy topic for the chemical industry. I used to work with the BBI, now CBE, joint undertaking since 2014, since the year of its establishment. And actually, the InfoDay and the digital networking platform that the CBE has set up are indeed great tools that give you the opportunity to make yourself visible, find partners, meet other people from the industry or other stakeholders like research, academia, universities, whatever. And you can exchange ideas. You can join your forces to give feedback, for example, to the CB team for the next annual program. You can actually inform the CB team about the latest advancements of the biotech industry. And I think the CB has always been very transparent on these tools, has always sought our feedback about what worked or not. So, and it always asks for the measure the impact of these tools. So as stakeholders ourselves, we could have our saying, and we were completely active in all this get-together exercise.
This is a wonderful sum up of what Dieter is doing, what Dieter's organization is doing. All right, Dieter, because this is it's we also have here now rundown a little bit about your partner platform tool. What is also worth mentioning is the all the work that is being done in your working groups that I'm most sure you have, where you develop sort of a group work approach in with where you take input and critical mass on what to get back to with the commission for the upcoming calls. These things are well, it's just great calibrating with the community that you're working for. Can you tell us a little about the partner platform, the tool?
Well, the partnership platform, I mean, the tool has changed since the start of BBI, but the purpose is still the same. So when we started in 2014, 2015, we realized that there was really a need for organizations to find themselves, because, as you rightfully pointed out, Niels, the advantage of these joint undertakings is they can be a bit more focused, indeed. But one of the main differences I think that BBI, now CBE, has compared to the other joint undertakings is that we are still quite broad. But because when you look at bio-based industries, you're talking about a variety of potential inputs, from agricultural waste products, the agri-food chain waste products, side streams, chemical industry, then you have maybe some forestry owners, the pulp and paper industry, etc. So this diversity is one of the reasons actually why BBI was created in the first place, because the idea was really to bring everyone together and maybe even bring people together that in normal circumstances would never collaborate. So really use these projects, these funded projects by BBI, now CBE, as a way to build these new types of interactions. And in order to do that, in light of an annual call for a proposal, of course, you also need to have a tool that allows these people to find each other. And it's a double thing. It's, on the one hand, this tool allows you to create, it's a free tool, so you can create a profile via which you say, I am this organization, I have this and this expertise, I am mostly interested in these and these topics of this call, and I'm open to being, I don't know, a coordinator, a beneficiary. I'm happy to help out in other ways, an advisory board, whatever you name it. So that is one way, let's say, where you can promote yourself. But of course, the better that you create that profile, the easier it also is for other organizations to find you. And it's allowing it's making sure that these types of collaborations can happen. Now, a lot of things have changed since, let's say, our first call in 2014. In 2014, the funding and tender opportunities portal, so the big portal of Horizon, it didn't yet have this partnering facility. So right now, if you go to the funding and tender opportunities portal, you look for a topic. Also there, you can create a little, it's almost like a post-it that you can leave behind and say, I'm this organization, I'm interested in this topic, this is what I can offer, etc. But at the start of BBI, that did not exist. So, but throughout, let's say, the different calls of BBI and CBE, we have kept this platform, our own platform, alive. We've expanded it, also based on feedback from our stakeholders, because we did see that it had its advantages. We could really tailor it to the needs of our applicants, and we have started also to open it up a lot earlier and keep it open a lot later. So before it was mainly linked, let's say, to the info day, to make sure that in the afternoon part of our info day, in the brokerage session, that people could find each other. And pre-COVID times, that was always and only in Brussels. So people came to Brussels, they could meet each other, they could set up meetings with one another. But then throughout the years, the functionalities of that platform have been expanded. And that also forced our hand a bit. COVID forced our hand, because what is it? 2 info days ago, all of a sudden, very last minute, we needed to organize an info day fully online. And then, okay, again, the purpose of the partnering platform remained the same: bring people together, allow them to have quick 10-15-minute introductory sessions with one another to see if they could be useful for one another. And then afterwards, they could then discuss outside of the platform as well if it was useful. But now, the platform is already open for, I think, more than a month. It will also remain open after the info day so that people can still create profiles for themselves, be found, but also start looking for potentially relevant organizations, because it's typically once you start writing a proposal that you realize, this is a bit the expertise that I'm missing. I might have some great technical expertise, but this dissemination, communication, exploitation plan, that does seem to have some specifics or some expertise that when I'm looking around in my consortium, maybe not. And, you have a lot of these other things as well. So this is why we keep it open as long as possible, so that as many organizations can keep finding each other.
I think credit needs to be given to, this is one of the, in my perception, one of the best platforms, because it's because it used to be, I don't know, because it's permanent. No, it's a permanent platform where you can go and you have a lot of people, organizations registered in there. It's networking in EU R&D funding. I've just released an episode with the CrowdHelix founder, Michael Brown, and tried to make a private concept around that, but working within these things, like me and Maria, we've been doing we know that networking and EU R&D funding, it's a permanent thing, and it has so many heads. It's an animal with so many heads that because it's not just people on a list. You need to know more about these people. You need to, you never know when you need them. It's not just around a brokerage event where you will have the B2 match sites. Really, it's more permanent. Also, maybe using it more actively with the idea development. Maybe stuff like this. This is my impression of this platform, is that it's an ambitious try, at least attempt to make at least an attempt to try to handle this difficult thing that is networking in EU R&D funding. I don't know, Maria, what's your perception?
It's indeed a permanent job to do. And as you said, not only you kind of know when you're going to need them, but you always need to stay updated on what they do and what their company, how their companies have evolved. Because you need to be at the right place at the right time, meet the right people. So it's about networking, it's about identifying opportunities, it's about communicating properly, effectively. It's an art, sort of. It takes skills and art, hard and soft skills,
persistence. Lots of soft skills, human skills. That let us move into the info day introduction to have a talk about it, because that's the purpose of this, as mentioned in the intro, to have a talk about that as a concrete, tangible element of networking and information about the course and so on. So, Dieter, the function.
Where to start? Well, it's information, but it's also providing an opportunity indeed for even more face-to-face networking. let's say. So, I mean, the agenda of our info day, it's a full day event. Morning is presentations. Afternoon is dedicated to networking. But, as we just established as well, the networking has already, hopefully, but we know that it has already happened, or is already happening before the info day, but will also happen afterwards. And the info day, I mean, because we're talking about the info day here, so which is the one in Brussels, but as CBEJU, we're also involved in a lot of other local info days. So
You are?
we are. So I said before that, we're a public-private partnership, so it's mainly then public and the private partner discuss, but we also have a couple of very relevant advisory bodies, one of them being the States Representatives Group. So in order to also have the voice of the different countries, regions, etc. involved there. And at the start of each year, we contact them. All these people, by the way, they are not selected by us. They are represented literally by their country. So and we asked them, okay, would you be interested this year to organize a local info day related to the call of CBE? So this is something that we also do. And some of these info days are, half day, full day events. Others are an hour and a half. And then we just connect online. We give a presentation. We allow Q&A just, to also get the word out in local communities and to reach people that we might not always reach via our Brussels info day. So if you're on the mailing list of the Czech national contact points and some research organizations there, and all of a sudden you see something passing by, we're going to do an info day about CBEJU Call 2023. You might be wondering, what is this CBE thing here? Never heard of this. Okay, could be interested. And it's one way to broaden the message. But the one in Brussels, this is the one that we fully organize ourselves, and there we can go a bit more into detail. Because, I mean, we have sessions from about 9 to 1, presentations from 9 to 1 with a break with different speakers, etc. And that is always the trick of I would say, any info day is how can you make it interesting for this extremely broad group of people that might attend. Because you might have people there who know more about European funding than we will ever know, that have been involved in the second framework program or whatever. But you also have people who, saw this in a newsletter somewhere and have no idea what CBE is all about. So how can you then make an info day that is interesting for everyone? And, to not only have the general program being interesting for everyone, but even the individual presentations, having them interesting for everyone. So adding both the basics, but also, some little nuggets that even if you're very experienced in everything, that, you're still getting something out of it, that you're not staring at the ceiling for most of the presentations, like I already know this. No, so that is indeed the trick. So it's about reaching out. It's about getting the message across that we exist, what types of projects that we fund. It's to allow networking. But it's also to become aware of certain questions that we might think are self-evident, or that we sometimes realize after an info day that was actually a good question. No, we might need to go back to the drawing boards and start thinking about, okay, what is that exactly? So this is why we also have a Q&A session as well, to get that information in. And I mean, one of the internal values of CBE is continuous improvement. We know that we can always do better. And this is what makes it interesting as well. As my colleagues and I, when we speak at our info days, we know that, okay, we can do some information transfer, all very well, but we're often, on the one hand, looking forward to, sometimes dreading a bit, the Q&A session as well, because sometimes we're wondering, there might actually be very good questions that come out of that we might not be able to answer immediately, but that will stimulate our minds to do better next time. And of course, we'll aim to answer any questions as quickly as possible afterwards. This is also why we have a frequently asked questions list for applicants that is updated regularly throughout a call. So yeah, this is a bit the general purpose of our info day.
Yeah. So the classical elements of an info day, that would be, you have some information about your calls, you have some information about how to prepare a proposal, maybe. And then you have brokerage, right?
Yeah, so if you look at the agenda of our Info Day in 2023, and we used a similar agenda in the past years as well, then let's say the presentation parts are usually divided into 3 blocks, which is one is about setting the scene, which is also explaining a bit, let's say also giving the opportunity for our director, but also representatives from our public and our private partner to, well, as the session name already suggests, set the scene. And that helps also for people who've never heard about CB to understand, okay, this is what is meant with a public-private partnership. So first getting that framework correct. Second session then is about the topics, but doing that in such a way, first, let's say, explaining a bit the general priorities, then go through the topics, but not go through the topics in detail. I mean, it depends. I think we have 18 topics this year in Call 2023. Yeah, even if you would spend only 2 minutes per topic, yeah, okay, that's great, but you might only be interested in what is it, 1 or 2 or 3 topics as an audience member. So you need to do it in such a way. And great, I'm happy actually that we have some colleagues from the Commission and from BIC that will present this. So to keep the red thread, the red line as well, so that people can continue to see, okay, this is how this is linked and this is why this is said and not this way, etc. So giving that general overview as well. And then the third part, the third session of the presentations, this is about the nitty-gritty, the practical things. What do I need to do to actually submit a proposal? What are the general rules and conditions, the CB specifics, on top of the standard Horizon things, some tips and tricks on how to write a good proposal. And especially that last presentation is an also a good reflection point for us as well internally within CBE, because whenever we're creating that one each year, we're like, okay, what is the feedback that we got from, for example, our expert evaluators during the last call? Which things were clear, which things were less clear? How can we make sure that, we inform our applicants what is the best place, what is the best way to write certain things, so that our evaluators can then afterwards also find the information that they need as quickly, as efficiently, as clearly as possible. So these are, let's say, the 3 sessions. So setting the scene, the topics, and then how to actually write a good proposal. That's the morning session. Then a well-deserved lunch break. And then the afternoon is really for networking.
Normally good lunch. As far as I remember.
Yes. Yeah, that's. I have to say, we've always got very good feedback about that as well. Indeed. So,
but
I mean, our topics deal with food waste as well. So, we want to avoid food waste. So, one way to do that is to make sure that the food is quite nice.
I've been making an effort to help you with that.
Thank you, Niels.
Now, so. I think I put here in the rundown also about the upcoming Info Day, but you just sketched it out, right? So it's that sort of what it is. Now, when it comes to to the run through of the calls, I've been attending a lot of Info Days in my time, and Maria, I know you have too.
Sure.
And that's probably the most heartbreaking thing to go through when when going through the concrete topics. It's always like from the Info Day organizers, how did they choose to approach this? Because when you have the energy work program, for instance, Info Day, and it's like they're obliged to run through them, so it's good to sort of batch them up, or sort of cluster them a little bit in the presentation, because it's listening to it in the in the audience I don't know about you, Maria.
Yes, well, I don't think anyone expects to hear all the details at those Info Days. Exactly.
No.
I mean, you can find those details at the work program, like you say. I think people usually get the most out of these Info Days by talking to other people, like raising questions that have been bugging their minds for a long time. I know there are some tough questions at those Info Days usually, and sometimes I feel sorry for the panel Um, I, I, I wouldn't want to be in their
They're
shoes.
well paid.
But I think people during the breaks can really fish very useful information um, from their peers. So I don't think everything is said inside the plenary room. There's no time anyway to mention everything.
My, you know what? My honest guilty as charged was say that the later years, I only attended the brokerage events in connection with the infodays. With not for the, and that's honest, for the PPI, the last one I actually went for the full event. But for the ones in Charlemagne building, that the commission has been organizing, they have a sort of, there's a structure for these things that are good for people. They have, it's exactly what you just said, Dieter. How do you do this for anyone, the entry level, the junior who doesn't know anything about this, or a person, a researcher, whatever? It's the first time they put pen to paper on this. And then on the other end, you have people, exactly like you said, that have been working with it since Frame Program 2, that scoof at any, like, why do I need to listen to this ish? So it's an absolutely impossible task if you want to make everybody happy. You cannot. So you just have to find a place in between where people can find the information further if they need more, and then they can get contacts in the brokerage and in between the breaks, that serves the purpose why they're there.
No, I agree, and this is also a discussion that we've had. I mean, should we mention the topics? If so, how long per topic, etc., etc. And until now, if you look back at all the other CB info days or BBI info days, we actually never had the topics. We never discussed them. But then, if you don't do it, you get comments also from the audience. Yeah, but you didn't say anything about the topics. That's a bit strange, right? And if you do, then it's too long, or it's so. This year we will attempt, let's say, somewhere in the middle. I think I think we have 18 topics. I think we have a session scheduled for about 35-40 minutes. So that's about a minute and a half per topic. And again, that forces also the presenters to really focus on, let's say, the main highlights, because there we realize that could actually have an added value for people, in a sense that they might go to the info day or not even aware, which topics exist. So then, giving the short rundown, then they might get a little they might get interested in one or two, or they might go a bit more into detail, or they might have just, searched for certain keywords, only found in their preparation for the info day one or two topics. But then, when you hear the other ones, you're like, actually, that might also be interesting for me. I hadn't thought about it that way. So it's trying to find the right balance. Will we be successful? I don't know, but we'll definitely try. And then we'll listen to the feedback of the people that followed it.
You know what? Making these events, it's sometimes you need to stick your neck out when you make them to try new ways to connect with your community and how they soak up the information. Maybe we should bridge into the second main part of this talk, the stakeholder experience. So zoom a little bit in on the actual day, how it is, the experience from the participant side. And Maria, she will get a chance now to share a little bit with the listeners and you and me, Dieter, how she has been, how she's normally using these things and so on. So I don't know, Maria, can you give us a little bit? Also, if you can give a little bit more detail about your company and what it does for you as a company.
Well, yes, please stories. We're a communication agency, as I said before. Our goal is to help the community, so businesses, associations, public bodies, research teams, networks, actually communicate their innovations effectively, raise awareness, initiate change, We believe that a strong narrative is essential to building credibility and establishing a strong position in the marketplace. And the the thing with clean stories is that we have the understanding, the technical understanding, and the background to communicate about resources, processes, technologies, and products. So this is what we do. We work closely with our clients to develop communication strategies. And we're trying to, let's say, improve public perception and awareness of biotechnology and bio-based products. Because a circular bioeconomy is still a very vague, very highly technical and abstract concept. But I don't know if you want me to get there now. Can you?
But I think the logic here is good.
Mhm,
Thanks. The logic here is that we hear a little bit about your
mhm.
company, what you do, why you do it, and then because the info days are tool.
Yes,
Yeah, it's something that in the end is going to help you because that's why they set them up.
yes.
So to help facilitating these kind of things for organizations like yours. So the communication
Mm,
in the
mhm,
area. Yeah, it's a new, fairly new sort of business area. It's also a new area to communicate about. I guess that's also why you can
mhm.
manage to make a living out of what you do. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, well, like you said, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because circular bioeconomy is a very technical and abstract concept. It has different classifications, different definitions. It has a political nature. It has a techno-scientific nature. Um, there's sometimes confusing terminology, sometimes lack of clarity about its nature and purpose, different definitions according to the regions, populations, purpose of the bioeconomy. And that's why there are different levels of knowledge regarding the bioeconomy. So it's very difficult to um, actually design one single. It's impossible to design single strategy to address all these audiences and messages.
Uh, um, so where I want to try to move this is so you as a company you are doing commercial
Yes.
assignments.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you also involve the company in EU projects, right?
Yes, that's right.
Because I guess it also makes it natural for you because you are a child of the system, so to say. You've been working with the system, so you know what it can offer and how it can
Hmm.
help you to do an EU funded
Hmm.
project. So, um, is this? Are you are you using? Are you entering EU projects because guess I'm sorry for taking so long to ask this question. Are you entering them to help yourself better understanding how to communicate about this? So sort of facilitating yourself, also getting better at understanding the research organizations and the companies involved in a concrete project, or are you more saying, look, I know a little bit more than you guys on how to do this. How do you use the funded projects? Do you understand?
I think it's a win-win situation. I know that the European Commission has set some um, best practices, some guidelines for communication, dissemination of the project results.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm applying, of course. Um, and my knowledge, my background in communication, but also in the bioeconomy and biotechnology, gives me this advantage that not only can I communicate as a professional communicator, but I also understand the context Of course, I get my knowledge by reading, but also talking to the scientific community,
Yeah.
but also to the policy community, of course, about all the developments, either the policy developments, the regulatory developments, or the scientific developments. So I think it's essential both for the technical partners and the commercial partners, let's say, in this in the grants, to have a professional communicator that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a very technical issue, and you really need to have a great technical understanding of the science and technology behind it.
So you're using your highly specialized knowledge about communicating with this field to
Mm,
support uh, how the message can come out properly from these
yes,
research projects, research and innovation projects.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now let's move into the Infoday and as a tool. So do you use them? Do you always attend them, or does do you always go? Yeah,
I
yeah,
do.
you're a regular. Yeah,
I'm a regular, they know me.
yeah. but, but but that that's good. So Dieter can be happy. I was also a regular until recently. So when you go, do you have a clear target? Do
Mm.
you know when you go? Have you prepared yourself in terms of now for my company? It would make sense for me to join uh, X amount of EU proposals over the next 6 months or something like this. Do you go with a clear purpose to join a consortium? Um,
Uh, yes, of course. That's part of the business of Clean Stories. I don't usually set a clear target of how many proposals I should join. Um, it depends.
yeah.
Uh, Yeah, it depends on the opportunities. It depends on the openness of the other companies, on the willingness, on the budget. There are a lot of factors,
Mhm.
of course, to make such a decision. But that does not only have to be the only outcome
Mhm.
from participating in the Infobay. It's
Yeah.
not, yes, it's a great opportunity, of course. That's the priority of
Mhm.
the day to meet people and submit project proposals together.
Mhm.
But um, other other opportunities might arise. For example, you might meet people that you want to work together or share your thoughts, your ideas um, about just um, projects, um, single
Yeah,
projects,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or yeah, it doesn't have to be a consortium,
Yeah.
just private business.
Yeah.
Mm.
But you're also inspired, it's a day to be inspired.
Mm.
Dieter?
Yeah, I mean, this is feedback that I've actually gotten from a lot of organizations involved in proposals, and I would say often SMEs as well, small and medium-sized enterprises. And I mean, what is it called? 2022 of CBE. I think we had 125 submitted proposals. 21 are now in grant agreement preparation. So let's say success rate's approximately 1 out of 6. So that means that 5 out of 6, were not invited for grant agreement preparation. But I mean, in the past, I've heard a lot, okay, to the SMEs as well. We actually have a very high percentage of SME applicants in CBE. And but still, it's European funding. The success rate tends to be lower, maybe than what you might hope for or used to. But so we asked a couple of SMEs as well. So okay, but why do you keep focusing on this? Because it requires some time to write the proposal, to be involved, etc., etc. And they said, well, realize that as SMEs, these proposals, they are a great way for us to sit around the table with very interesting organizations in our field. People that we might never sit around the table with in any other circumstances. So then, if you then receive the letter that says, unfortunately this year, because of lack of budget or whatever, you're not one of the lucky 1 out of 6. Okay, then you can say, okay, too bad, but are there maybe other ways that we could collaborate?
Yeah.
And then, even a non-successful proposal could still lead to, the advancement of, circular bio-based industries in Europe. Yeah. Which then, of course, we're also happy with.
That's, I think, Maria, that it's this personal meeting. Yeah, the online regimes that we were forced to. It was good that it was possible, but honestly, I think what I hear from all my guests, where we talk about this in my podcast here, is that everybody is very happy that the online terror is over. Organizations like Didas, they love the online regime because it gives them an opportunity to make some more events. It's sometimes easier to do more than that, but I think the feedback, please continue to offline events, because people, they need them. It's when you network, and I know Maria will agree with me here, when you network for EU funding, when you network for a collaboration, intense collaboration with something that could lead into years of sitting together, working closely together on something that can be very difficult to deal with, then you need to look people in the eye, not just on a screen. You need to meet that person. You need to discuss with that person, even if it's only for the brokerage speed dating 20 minutes. You as Lara said in one of my earlier podcast episodes on especially network, as she said, it's not about the 15-20 minutes. It's about noticing the person also afterwards, even though you're not in the same room. You can discuss further when there's a lunch, or you can the impressions that you get is so much more. It's what you need to internalize when you sit and have to build that consortium. If you're a proposal developer, for instance, you need to understand if these people seem reliable, if they seem knowledgeable, if they seem like exactly what you're looking for to fill in that specific place in the partner value chain. It's and this is what you said earlier, Maria, it's people skills. It's about it's about active listening. It's about the person you sit in front of. Is it one that just go quickly like this? But then it's not for you. Huh? If you to get that, you need to meet. So Dieter, please continue the offline events, because it's very, very important.
No, I agree. I think it's the double way that we're doing it right now. So live stream plus also the on-site event. I think that this might be for the big infodays, the ones that we organize, I think might indeed be the way to go forward, because one of the positives of, let's say, doing things significantly more online in the last couple of years is also that Maria and I were even talking about it just before today, that we've seen an increase in the professionalism of the IT tools that you can use for web conferences, which was not there before COVID.
Yeah.
You always had at least one person who didn't necessarily have the right tools or whatever to have a really good online, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, etc. But now, thanks to COVID, I guess. These tools have developed at a significantly quicker pace than would probably ever have been possible.
Yeah.
So now we can use best of both worlds. We can lower the threshold also for people to actively participate in infodays. It's not only if you have the funds to come to Brussels that you can network. No, actually now you can network also even if you're not there, but also still allow people to, if they want to, and I definitely see the added value of meeting face to face as well, to still do that and to indeed come to Brussels. So it's maybe it's an unintended consequence of COVID, but I think in the end it's a positive one, as long as we can keep these hybrid ways of working and use both advantages.
I can say, when I was working as a private consultant, grants consultant, it was of course highly efficient. That suddenly I could cover an immense amount of brokerage events without having to take the heart off to travel constantly, right? And of course, that's an asset. So, and I know that private consultants sitting in Italy or Spain or Greece, like Maria, it does help that you have hybrid events if you need. If you have an intense period of networking where you need to find some parts, but it's the offline ones. They're just when I was living in Brussels, I prioritized them, even though I always said to, after some years where I can read the work program, because as a professional, you get the draft. So you know it. So you know what is there for your stakeholders, the one that you support. So that was not important for me to sit and listen to running through that. And you also know the conditions to access and so on and so forth. It was always the meeting people in person and the opportunities that would come out of this. And frankly speaking, very tangible. This conversation with having Maria on board here, it would not have happened if I hadn't met Maria some 7-8 years ago in a brokerage event. No, it's just, you never know the long-term consequences of this, of even though you don't submit a proposal at the next call round. It's much more important than that. And that was why I prioritized them when I lived in Brussels. I went continuously. I have a huge book of business cards. Back when people were using them, there's piles of business cards, and I was categorizing them. I was putting them into a database, and which I still have. Now we are now for the rundown. We actually more or less through. And is there anything else you wanted to, Maria? Is there anything about the actual info, the stakeholder experience? I think the launch is important to mention. The networking is important to mention. The brokerage is important to mention, and then that if by all means the efforts that organizations like Dieters that they do to make it look nice and crunchy, the information about how to approach the funding, by all means, I can recommend anyone within this field to go to the day if you have the possibility, because it is something that you will always take something with you back home. That's the truth.
That's true.
We are rounding it up. I have this segment. Yeah, Dieter, do you want to say something?
No, I think I actually want to echo what Maria just mentioned, also related to communication. Because, throughout the framework programs, communication has become more and more important. Right now, it's even, having a dissemination communication exploitation plan is even an admissibility criterion. So, that already shows how important the European institutions think that, good communication is. And so, yes, if you are part of a consortium and you realize that you might not have the necessary expertise, realize that, it's 5 points that you can score for impact in total. Dissemination, communication, exploitation is one of those. And especially for CBE, one of our CBE geospecifics is that the threshold for impact is not 3 out of 5, so as is the case in a lot of other Horizon programs, but is 4 out of 5. So there you really need
raise
to
the
make
bar.
sure, the bar, it really is higher there. So, realize that you really will need to invest in writing a very good first dissemination, communication, exploitation plan. And this is one of the ways that you can really set yourself aside from the competition. And
this is a
Yeah.
podcast episode itself, which I will invite Maria to do on how she zooming in on how she works on these things. So that's going to be very nice, Maria, if you would like to do that.
Yeah. That will be also an episode on its own, I think. And I think we should also make it clear that dissemination is different from communication, because a lot of people do not know or understand that there's a difference. I think we should make that clear too in the next episode, Neil.
Well, I can definitely recommend to check out the Grant podcast portfolio, because I do have episodes on these things. I have a wonderful double episode on impact, the impact section, both on what the template says and then how you actually approach it, and it's quite detailed in terms of crushing down these things. But what I do want, because that's very important for me with the Grant, that I dig, like I geekily dig into things like this, and I need people with specialized knowledge like you have, Maria, on stuff like this. And knowing that, Dieter, that you have a love for the podcast medium, it's we'll see. We should do more. I would love to have more, dig into more detailed things, because there's so much to talk about.
There is.
So that we will get back to. Now, my segment that I always have in all my episodes, the toughest challenge. And I think in the rundown I put the toughest challenge in conducting an info day. But I don't know, maybe we actually covered it. The toughest challenge is to make it for everybody.
It's the combination of everything, because the problem is people will remember the one thing that didn't go well. If it's technical, technical issues, but no, but it's true. I mean, if let's say everything was well, sorry. I mean, both positive and negative feedback that I received in the past was about the food, And if food was good, this is what people. If it was bad, people will definitely remember. That was the info day with the bad food. But it can be the technical issues as well. Yeah, I couldn't hear you. The sound was really bad, the visuals didn't work, whatever. The content might have been fantastic, but so it's trying to get that combination, making, as I said before as well, the presentations interesting for everyone, for a very broad target audience. It's and on one day, I think everyone that has ever been involved in info days knows there's always something that will go wrong. Not can go wrong, will go wrong.
Yep.
And then, it's about how can you solve that with a smile. In such a way that it doesn't hinder what you want to transfer. So I think it's a combination, but I agree. Trying to get things done or organized so that it's relevant for everyone. That's a tricky one.
I think, Dieter, as this is going to be the first info day after the COVID era, I think you should remind people that they're lucky to be there, so they should enjoy themselves. And forget about negative thoughts and keep only the positive vibe of the day.
Can't do that. Have to complain.
I think we'll all be happy to be there.
Where are you having it? What's the venue?
In the Charlemagne building. So next to Yeah. We've actually had, I think, all but one of our info days there. It's nice size as well. People can find some little corners as well if they want to have some one-on-one meetings. So
Didn't you have one out in the close to where the motorway comes in?
The Diamant building, you mean?
Yeah.
This is the place where often the Biobased Industries Consortium organizes their events, or our private partner. But I think we had one info day, I think in Borchette, which is one of the other European Commission things. But most of the time, the last, I think at least since Call 2016, I think we did in Charlemagne, because we realized that there was this request. It's never a problem of filling up the whole room with 450-ish people.
Yeah.
That because we just got more and more requests to attend. How that will be now, with the post-COVID times, when some people will be able to also join online. I don't know. If I look at the latest numbers, it seems to be a full house. But what is the percentage that our communication people typically say that if 1,000 people say that they will come, how many will actually come? You never know. And let's say
attendance psychology, and when it's free of charge, when people didn't pay, slobs. No, I don't have to go at it.
Voila. Plus, also, it seems to be strike season in Europe. So, if one of the major countries have a strike, then good luck trying to get to Brussels even. So.
Yeah. So you are fully booked. Or?
I think I haven't checked the latest also with the what is it? And it's often, there's a big surge as well just after the Easter holiday. We're going to do an additional campaign, let's say, to motivate the last doubters to still come. So then usually we have a significant surge.
Okay, so you don't have any red lights out. People can still register.
They can definitely still register. I cannot confirm that it will be possible for them to join, but definitely still register. So.
That's not good marketing, Dieter.
No, it's because we're so popular, Niels. This is why.
Yeah. So. Anyways, I've been attending a lot of info days in Charlemagne. It's one of these glass palaces in the European area. And it has all the infrastructure that you need. As a guest, it seems a little technocratic, futuristic when you enter, right? It's there's a lot of glass, there's a lot of steel, there's a lot of European Commission feel. But when you get up, it's nice. You have the networking area. You have a very nice. The plenary room is very nice, lovely. If you need to spend a full day there, it's nice. Yeah.
No, I agree. It's a lovely little hemisphere as well. It's close enough to the audience that as a speaker, you're not thinking that I think I can see you somewhere. So it's also a good experience there, and that helps. That connection.
Yeah, definitely. And you do have, for any newcomers, you do have you have microphones there. You can always ask questions in the Q&A like this. So no, it's things. It's I understand why you do that. Definitely.
Yeah. We still need to see, let's say, if we're going to do the Q&A fully online, let's say via app, or we're also going to do the microphone. The microphone tends to, let's say, make things go a bit slower here and there as well. And it also lowers the bar, let's say, if you do everything online and people can just ask questions. If you need to stand up in front of 450 people and a couple of hundreds or thousands, online, maybe not ideal. But also just to make sure, what we will not do during the Q&A session is tackle topic interpretation issues. Because again, very specific, maybe for you. If you want to know more about that, just email info@cb.europa.eu. We're happy to discuss it, but that's something we will not do during the info day.
It's some of the info days you would have session breakouts, right? So you would break the topics down. That's somehow how the commission sometimes handle this, right? But it's.
We've had that discussion as well. For now, we're not going to do it. Also because if people, let's say, are interested in multiple topics, then what? Exactly. You don't go, you shall go. So it's plus it requires quite a bit of additional space. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. Now I just wanted to do a little bit of marketing for you there, Dieter, here in the end. No,
Thank
it's
you.
a special
Thank you
on it.
that.
There's a reason for this, to shed light on this, and if I can help you get more participants.
Hey, one thing that we're doing on top of last year's is a podcast, so that will definitely help.
Yeah, it's you're always welcome. That's that because we need to do that. I am putting lights on the European partnerships. I had the Spire in, the director Angels Olena from there, and Marie Latour, who has been a long background working with the partnerships. I also have some. So I tried to sort of map out the partnerships for people to understand what they are and how they work, and because it's difficult from an outside. I will also that's in the book, The Pipeline, an ERA-Learn episode. The ERA-Learn is an initiative that tries to make it an overview of all the partnerships and what they do, and so it's a platform on a platform. So it's very important for me to give a voice to these areas for people to understand better what they are and how they work. So on that note, now I just have to land this plane, and then you'll get a chance to say goodbye to the listeners shortly. So dear Grant listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. You are the beating heart of this initiative. Without you guys listening to this stuff, there wouldn't be a podcast. So thank you so much. Please do remember to check out my website if you are a new listener. It's on thegrant.eu. And there you'll find all the back catalog of episodes. It's quite long now. I have more than 50 episodes there, covering different areas. And more importantly for me to mention is that if you sympathize with what I'm doing here, by all means, do submit to the podcast email list. This is the best way for me to grow my humble initiative here. So by all means, please, that will help me a lot. There you will also find on the website a hub site that I'm trying to slowly develop as much as I can in the spare time frame that I have set up for myself. The hub, you will find different links to resource sites like webinars from the Commission, brokerage event sites, stuff like this. Check it out. I think that's that. Maria, Dieter, thank you so much for dropping by the virtual podcast studio. And we will be this will be airing the Monday before the infodays, so that will be not this Monday but next Monday. So this is a quickie. Normally there's a much longer pipeline on my things in my planning here, but this one is skipping out before the infoday. So, but thanks for coming by.
Very welcome. It's really a pleasure.
Thanks. And let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.